Hey there, guys. This is Bobby and Steph, and we are Between Two Teeth, the motorcycle edition. Steph,
the
what are we talking about today?
We're talking about how
we're on motorcycles, just in case anyone didn't know.
We're talking today about why we started law school, how we decided it, how to do it, and, just in general, kind of our background thought process on the whole thing. Bobby?
We get asked that question a lot, and for background, we are in Central Texas right now. We're going through some water crossing, so if you hear one of us sound like we're swimming, it very much may be the case. But why law school? For me, since high school, I've always thought about being an attorney. How about you, Steph? What did get on your radar screen?
Yeah, so on my radar screen, sorry if you hear a lot of wind noise, I've got a hole in my helmet that creates a weird sound. So
I've got a hole in my head, at least.
Law school was never really on the radar for me. Instead, when I started to think about law school, it was after my time on an ADA council called the Council on Members Insurance for Retirement Program.
This is the American Dental Association.
Yeah, it's for the American Dental Association. And so once I got on that council, I started interacting with actuaries and other lawyers and financial planners, and I realized that the law permeates many aspects of life. And then, Bobby, I saw you started to consider law yourself, and I thought, man, what better way to do law school than with your spouse?
Like, what could go wrong? We're in private practice together. We're busy Monday through Friday, and the cool thing about part-time law school is it lets you continue to work while doing law school on the side. Yeah, for us, probably 20 to 30 hours a week of extra work. I loved reading. I don't like reading this much, quite frankly. How about you, Steph? Has this turned off your love of reading, or you get into it? You get into those law books and you're marking it up with highlighters and pens.
Don't be fooled. It is interesting to a point. It's a law textbook, so it reads like a law textbook. The cool thing about law school is it's a bunch of stories, and
it applies to everything. If you look at the
stories
entire
are a little easier to memorize, and they're easier to engage with, and so that's the biggest difference between studying science and biology and physiology is that in law school, we are studying stories and the outcomes and judgments of those stories.
And speaking of judgment, we're coming up to our first water crossing.
We're coming up. Ooh, a little bit slick there on the.
All right. Well, here we go. We're going to see if Steph's going to swim or not swim. She's going through. Woo-hoo! That's cool. Here I go. All right. It's not mossy. That's good. We got someone watching on the other side. All right. We should have the first water crossing. In life, I always kind of get worried about
there for a little bit.
I looked at it. So I've always wanted to go to law school, thought about doing it after dental school. It always interested me. I knew attorneys kind of growing up. I'm a state board regulator. We deal with lots of legal stuff. That stuff excited me. I saw that attorneys helped really important things happen in the world. And I also saw that attorneys help prevent really important things from happening.
Actually, the only other interaction I've had with an attorney growing up is my grandpa had a patent. And there was a patent interaction or suit that he had with another person, and that was about my only interaction with legal teams, other than when I was on the ADA council. And so
you've never been in jail? Is that what you're saying?
So for a long time, this was just completely off my radar, which is kind of how I love to live life. I love when opportunities come up. Part of us getting into law school was taking the LSAT. That was probably our first kind of big moment
for me.
And that was growth.
Let me tell that story. I've been studying for the LSAT for a while. Then I stopped and decided, no, I'm not going to law school. So took like a couple of years of a break and then decided again, okay, I'm going to do it. And I used one program and wasn't really gaining traction. And then Steph started looking at it and saying, you know what? I've been looking around this LSAT stuff. It actually seems kind of fun. And you found a program.
Did I use the word fun?
Well, I think you did. You like puzzles, that kind of stuff.
Do I?
I did not enjoy studying for LSAT. I appreciated it was a hurdle, and that's what it is. So we did that together. We ended up using this program, LSAT, even no financial interest. It worked. We both took LSAT, did well, and applied.
I love that story, Bobby. And, from my perspective, it's just a little different. When I started seeing you study for the LSAT, I got curious. I don't know if I would consider it fun so much, but it was definitely different than any sciences. And I remember in high school, I always loved English and literature, and this was a way to kind of get back in touch with that side of things.
Curiosity fully describes you. You are probably the most curious person I've ever seen.
Whenever I started to look at that a little bit closer, thank you, my friend. We're going out of the gates right now.
We're out of the
gates. To get outside. Yeah, so whenever I started to look into some of the LSAT material, it wasn't that it was fun so much that it was so different and curious and just, a little exciting in a way in that it was so different.
I think you were a lot better at enjoying the journey. You're better at enjoying the journey, I think, than I am. I looked at it as this is a hurdle. I got to get through this. This is a different way of thinking. Reading comprehension, as you mentioned, you and I are scientists. That background changes your lens. If I read a question on the LSAT that talked about science or a doctor, I got it wrong.
Is that whenever we're doing, you have dental and medical school entrance exams, and some of it is based on root memorization, but a lot of it is based on application. So the only difference here is that the LSAT is application in real time. You don't know, when you're going into kind of medical and dental school exams, the basic physiology that's underlining things. But with law school, they give you a subject matter out intentionally that you know nothing about. And then you have to use your deductive reasoning and any kind of legal applications to match the scenario. And so that's what makes it truly unique.
It got my brain going. So what advice would you have where the rubber meets the road for someone that says, you know what, I'm interested in law school, I'm a professional, I'm working, where do I need to start? What do you do?
Oh, so for something like that, I would say it's pretty routine.
Watch out.
We got some animals in the world.
Wild animals running. Is that a goose? A vulture?
Look at that. That's super cool. These are big birds. They look like turkeys. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. We're in Central Texas, kind of around Glen Rose.
I don't think I've seen 3 turkeys in a row.
Literally a turkey running down the middle of the road.
I don't want to say chasing a turkey, but the turkey has not chosen to leave my path.
It's going 20 miles an hour. It's trying to fly. Now it's flying.
We are actually running with the turkeys.
We've had
that kind of sums us up a little bit.
Beside us. That was one of the most hilarious things. Anyways, back to LSAT. What's your advice? Back to your question. I think it is something you really want to sit with for a touch of time, but not too long. Part of the way Bobby and I have lived our lives is we have an opportunity arise. We ask ourselves, hey, is the juice worth the squeeze on this? Sometimes the answer is obvious, but other times it's not so obvious. And if that's the case for you, if you're like, man, I've always wanted to go to law school, I've been thinking about it, I feel like I'm too busy, figure out a way to make it work. That's where part-time programs like the one at Northeastern make it doable for us. Bobby and I are still full-time practitioners while we're doing this. The blessing and the curse is exactly what you just described. We'll think about things and sometimes not overthink it. I think decision paralysis is a big thing that many of us do. It is a huge decision going to law school. But I think what I hear you say is just look at it, see if it's going to fit your life, and then just start studying.
I don't know if I'd ask myself, will this fit my life? Because that's kind of like asking, hey, will a child fit my life? It doesn't really fit your life ever. You make it work, and you create space and time for the things that you're trying to incorporate. And so I think the better question is do I want to incorporate this into my life? And for Bobby and I, the answer was yes, and we found a way to make it work. And so right now we see patients Monday through Fridays, business as usual, and in the evenings we have a class maybe on a Tuesday evening, maybe on a Thursday evening. On a busy week, we have one on a Tuesday and a Thursday. But other than that, we get to utilize asynchronous programming, which means we study when it suits our schedule. And that makes it so doable, even though it is stressful at times.
I think certainly talking to people who are doing these types of programs, frankly, getting on Reddit, hearing people talk about working and law school, we had a tough last week when you've got other meetings and law school classes.
Yeah, and this summer for Bobby and I is specifically troubling or challenging because we have 2 doctrinal classes. With these part-time law school programs, they try to only put 1 doctrinal class. And the easiest way I can describe what that is it's like taking a hard class in college or a hard class in a professional school. And they really, because we're part-timers, they really try to just have us focus on 1 hard class at a time. This summer, though,
we've got 2.
And this summer they have put 2 on the schedule. So
and
this is really
doctrinal classes are
organizational
things like criminal
skills,
law.
And it's also testing our ability to time manage, something that for Bobby and I, I think we get right most of the time.
Yes, doctrinal classes, torts, criminal law, Civ Pro, contracts, property is what we're doing now.
Yeah, they're basically foundational classes that are based on both common law and statutes. And what makes them doctrinal is just they're so foundational to your understanding of the law and how it applies to scenarios.
And frankly, it's as exciting as it sounds, I think. I'm having a hard time getting revved up for, they're important, but we're in the busy time right now. And I think kind of having a realistic outlook, if you're thinking about law school, talk to people. And to your point, Seth, sometimes you don't know until you start walking on the journey as far as how things are going to fit into your own life.
And
what other advice?
People will ask us, how do you talk to people? How do you find these people? Because you don't necessarily have dual degree, professionals or part-time law students just running around at the farmer's market every day, easy access. So part of where we have found people
they should be at the farmer's market.
It's through LinkedIn, and LinkedIn has been able to connect us to people who are in a similar spot. Also, telling your story. If you put yourself out there, people who are asking the same questions will reach out. I put my story on my socials, my Instagram channel. I had dental school classmates reach out to me and say how they've always wanted to do law and how they're so excited that I'm doing it, and they want me to tell them how it is so they can make their own decision. I think that's really cool.
Yes, we're in the dental profession, and when I talk at lectures, oftentimes I'll say, raise your hand if you have thought about law school either mildly or in a serious way, and almost half the people put their hands up. It's sort of a common thing. I put my story out on my MBA group, which was all physicians that were doing an MBA together, and I probably had 5 or 6 reach out directly of what program are you doing, how is it structured, how does it work. So,
which kind of gets us back into the power of storytelling and the power of putting yourself out there. And when we're going to go to Florida Dental Congress in just this next week, and we're talking about communication and the power of storytelling. And storytelling, it's like a muscle. You got to build that muscle. It's okay to not be good at it. You just got to keep working at it.
And here's what I would say. Law school for me has helped with my communication. It's made me more concerned about being exact. I say, attorneys they use words as is that a good way to say it? Sometimes it's a shield. It's a strategic use of the English language.
Sometimes words can be a shield, and sometimes they can be a sword. And just depending on the scenario you're in and what the law allows, of course, you can utilize that to your benefit.
What would you tell yourself right now for your law school journey? What would Stephanie Arganter say to Stephanie Arganter pre-law student?
Well, if I am trying to...
Would you say buckle up, buttercup?
If I'm trying to reach back in time and just, I wouldn't do anything different to this point. I feel like I have done something in law school as a 36-year-old that I wasn't able to do at dental school as a 22-year-old, which is it's balance my own expectations for my grades, for what's going on in my life, for relationships. I've been able to do that a lot more effectively. If I approach law school now how I did dental school, and the way I approach dental school so much pressure I put on myself to just be the best student I could possibly be. Now, I didn't have a job when I was in dental school. That makes this a little bit different. I didn't have a husband when I was in dental school. That makes it a little different. Now, I didn't have patience either. You start to have patience in your latter years, true, but in the most stressful parts of dental school, those first couple years from an academic perspective, it's just the books. It's just the coursework. And I just put so much pressure on myself to get straight A's. And that's a lot.
That's a really good point. And I think that's the advantage of hybrid programs that are part-time. It's professionals. You're going to have a different lens through which you look at the world and you look at. And I think for both of us, at least I can speak for myself, I'm heavily trying to use this new lens that I'm learning to kind of impact me as I do different things, and it's really cool. Well, listen, guys.
I love it. Give me one more beat here on that, and part of this, Bobby, because it is important. Because I think a lot of people look at doing something big in their life, especially early to mid-career, as impossible. Because when they approach challenging situations, and I think a lot of professionals do this, they have their type A personalities. They want to do the best they can at it. But then that creates an impossible situation. And most people don't embark on an adventure like law school or travel or start that new practice or have something else go on in your life because they're trying to approach it with the same intensity and the same debilitating expectations. So I say instead, part of the reason Bobby and I were able to do law school is because we were able to separate those expectations, to pacify them, and to modify them, and to give ourselves a break on what we expected from ourselves with this venture. And that shift in frame and mindset allowed us to say, yes, let's do this unknown.
And here's what I will say about you. You have shown me how having no fear, or at least limited fear, on so many different things, if you push past fear, you can do a whole lot of things that are really magical. It's a motorcycle journey, climbing a mountain, starting law school, as a surgeon.
And more, I love that what you're saying, pushing past fear, but that's not to really get you over the hump. Message. It's not, it's part of the message. I would say the other part of it is, don't be paralyzed by having to have it perfect.
Perfect. Oh, yes.
Are you a perfectionist? Bob and I if we had put ourselves in a position to say, we're only going to do law school if we make the same kinds of grades that we made when we were in dental, medical, college, it would have been debilitating. There's no way. But we chose a law school, a program that actually does a pass-fail model and does honorifics. That means that you know if you got enough of the material by passing the class. And sure, if you get like honorific, say you got high honors, all of that gives you an extra pat on the back, but it doesn't mean that you didn't meet the threshold of knowledge and understanding. And so we chose this program with intentionality to take a little pressure off ourselves so that we could really balance our lives in the best way possible. And most importantly, so that we could say yes to this opportunity.
Yes. And the other cool thing is they don't rank the individual students in the class, because that would not have been ideal for us. Would you say that's a correct statement?
Yeah, I mean, I think the main thing is just don't wait for it to be perfect. And the whole saying of we're all living in a cage with the door wide open is just that cage is our own expectations on ourselves. And the way you step out of that cage is to allow yourself to step beyond your own expectations.
Yeah, totally get it. Well, guys, thanks for joining us. If you're thinking about a law school journey, talk to people out there, get some information, and don't let fear hold you back. Thanks for joining us.